Welcome to Third Angle, where you find us empowering first responders with augmented reality. I'm your host, Paul Hames from industrial software company PTC. In this podcast, we share the moments where digital transforms physical and meet the brilliant minds behind some of the most innovative products around the world, each powered by PTC technology. With many governments around the world committing to 100% zero-emission truck sales by 2040, the sight and quiet sound of electric trucks is going to become more commonplace in the coming years. In 2022, in Europe alone, the market for heavy trucks grew by over 200%. At the forefront of the new electric future of haulage is Volvo Group. In Europe, Volvo Group is the market leader, and in North America, nearly half of all electric trucks registered in 2022 were Volvo trucks. One of the challenges that this fast-paced growth presents is for first responders. Despite often having advanced safety features, in emergency situations, incidents involving electric vehicles can present them with a completely new set of risks. Up until now, first responders arriving on the scene of an incident would have to identify the vehicle and flick through a file of 2D rescue cards to see diagrams showing where to locate hazards, how to disengage high voltage areas, and how to disconnect the battery before cutting into the vehicle to get the occupants out. Imagine this in the chaos of an emergency scene. This all takes time, which could cost lives. But the team at Volvo Group have now built an augmented reality powered app that digitizes vehicle data for first responders and allows them to use AR to visualize important information while standing in front of a physical truck. We sent our producer, Lasse Edfast, to Gothenburg in Sweden to meet Anna Wrige, Traffic and Product Safety Director, and Vincent Barnoux, AR expert and business solution engineer at Volvo Group. They take us around Volvo Group's headquarters and show us the app in action.
My name is Anna Wrige Berling and I work as Traffic and Product Safety Director at Volvo Trucks. That means that I do a lot of things that have to do with safety. When we say traffic safety, we mean more like the stuff that we have, the features we have on our trucks that are there to minimize the risk for accidents and injuries. And when we say product safety, which is what we're going to talk more about here, then we talk about making sure that our trucks are safe to use, both for the people that are driving them, but also for people that come in contact with them, like for instance, then the rescue services. Right now we are in Gothenburg, in Lundby, and this is where we have our main product development for the truck side. So we are actually standing at Group Trucks Technologies headquarters. Behind here is actually where the first Volvo car was produced in 1927 and also the first Volvo truck in 1928. So it is also a very historical site. And when we look at safety, I mean, we know that Volvo has a really long history when it comes to safety, going all the way back to 1927 when we produced the first car. But then specifically talking about the seat belt, it was developed and produced in 1959, the 3-point seat belt. It was invented by a Volvo engineer, but actually Volvo decided that it's such an important invention that we cannot keep it to ourselves. So we left the patent open, I think that's how you describe it, so that anybody could use it. So one way we normally put it is that even if you buy a competitor vehicle, you get a piece of Volvo in every truck that you buy, or in every car that you buy. There is a piece of Volvo. So the reason why we have this app is, I mean, we have a history, I think, at Volvo at looking at safety, looking at trying to get the complete view of safety. It's not only about, it doesn't end with our products. I mean, it also is our products in use. So we need to look at not only the drivers and our customers, but anybody that comes in contact with our trucks. And there I think that rescue is a very important thing, because we know that rescue services and towing companies also handle our trucks without any help from us, you can say, because that's when the trucks are really out in the reality. For instance, a truck driving off the road that has rolled over is laying on the side, and the rescue services need to come there make sure that the vehicle is safe to approach, and also so that they can, if needed, rescue people that are inside. Maybe it has been a collision with another vehicle, like a passenger car. You can think of many scenarios, because we know that accidents happen in many ways. And regardless of how this accident has happened, I mean, rescue services and others need to solve the situations. And that is also an important aspect, that we cannot, it's impossible to predict exactly what every accident will look like. So that is why we want to provide this information. And then having this app where we don't only have the information in a static way, but really a three-dimensional view of each truck, and also this augmented reality view. I think that's an excellent way to take it, to use technology to take this one step further. And this is thanks to then Vincent and his team that came up with this idea. So it's really, you know, bottom up in this case. So we get a really good chance to use this technology and the technology push, because in this case it's really a technology push that made us include this additional part in the information that we provide externally.
So my name is Vincent Barnoux. I'm coming from France, and I'm responsible for, in our department called Aftermarket Technology, we are delivering all the aftermarket documentations for servicing the trucks and so on. And in that department, I'm responsible to develop augmented reality applied to that field of operation. So it means that we are looking at this new technology, which is still quite recent on the market, and we are looking to develop use cases and where it applies, where we can bring value to our service technician that will operate on the truck. Like, I'm just taking an example, like seeing through the vehicle, or having the effect of seeing through the vehicle will help you to locate precisely where are the components and where are how the truck is assembled. For safety reason, we are able to, as I said, see through the vehicle and guide non-expert user on our trucks to better understand the product.
With the electric truck, we have some specific challenges. We have the fact that it is 600 volts, and 600 volts is not something that you want to touch with your body, like for instance. So you need to make sure that that is not happening. And of course, that is in the design of the truck. So there is no risk that you will come in contact with 600 volts. But of course, after an accident, when things are broken and it doesn't look the way that it was designed, then it's important to know where this 600 volt is located, so that you know, because rescue services, they need to sometimes cut the cab open to get people out. Now we don't have any 600 volt in the cab, so there's no risk when you want to cut into the cab that you will get in contact with 600 volt. But that is not visible from the outside. So that is of course important that we communicate that information. So it is the fact that it's 600 volts, but then it's also the fact that we have lithium-ion batteries. And that comes with the chemistry in the batteries. And as you might know, there can be potentially a risk with these batteries that it can lead to a thermal event or a thermal propagation, and then that is of course also important for rescue services. So it's connected to the fact that we have the batteries and that we have the 600 volts. So there's both electrical aspects and potentially some fire aspects. So that is again then why we need to have this information. Now if you have a diesel truck and you have a lot of fuel lines and you have other parts, then of course there are other risks coming with that we don't even have on the electric truck. So I would say that there are differences, and with those we have different challenges. And with the electric trucks, it is the fact that we have 600 volts, but also the fact that we have the lithium-ion batteries. If they are deformed severely, then we know that can lead to a thermal runaway or potentially even to thermal propagation. And that is, of course, extremely important for rescue services to know about and to be able to handle. So I think that summarizes maybe the main differences that come with the electric trucks.
So here we'll go through the application, and so on the welcome screen, so as I described, we are searching for an identity and we are pressing the search button. Here the application will load and research in our databases. From here we are starting to instruct the user to do certain actions. So first of all, we if possible, then immobilize the vehicle by shocking the wheel. So here we see a small picture directly on the application. And then we can continue. And first question, is the cab accessible? Yes or no? Let's say that the cab is not accessible because any reason you have a problem with the truck and it's not you are not able to enter the cab. Then you can click on no. And here that's the most important part, I think, and that's give a sense to the application, is that we are instructing to remove the 600 voltage from the system and keep it inside the batteries. And for that we have what we call an emergency loop that we need to cut. So it's literally a small wire that we need to cut in order to shut off the system. And that's where it's really important to visualize where it is. And the app is able to guide the user. And we see on the screen a guiding ribbon to the exact place where the user needs to go. So it's behind a small sensor that is on the side of the truck. And you see the particular wire highlighted and blinking on the application. And it's super important because sometimes orange and 600 cable can pass aside or near this cable to cut, and of course the user, we must avoid the user to cut the wrong cable. Of course they are orange, but in case of an emergency situation, it's important that they understand clearly and visually where to cut, and cut only the small wire and not the big power voltage, for example. It's physically mounted here, so that's really the impressive part for using augmented reality, is that you see exactly where things are, even if from outside and from a human eye it's hidden because you don't see it, but through augmented reality you are able to quickly locate it, even for invisible parts. Here we have made a choice when the scenario is inside the cab. We don't see any augmented reality, for example, on the tablet that is demonstrated here, because there is really few information, and this is really an example where we have worked what was the most giving sense to the user to have augmented reality. And augmented reality is not using the technology for the technology. And we are really we have done the choice really to use it where it's relevant, like where the information is really important to understand, like the hazard information and so on. But where the information is easy to understand, we have sticked to the, let's say, more usual flat 2D information. We are having here an instruction about do they hear any noise or warnings in the truck that an event might be going on. So it's a display. We are instructing them to look and hear from the display of the truck if there is any problem. And then at the end we are instructing them to turn off the key that will shut off the 600 voltage system automatically by just turning off the key like any usual driver would do. When the first rescue and the first responder will come to a road event, they will, as we previously saw or on the application demo, they will enter a chassis identity or a truck identifier, and that's really key in order to download the correct data, because the data is not contained in the application. Otherwise it means that we will need to roll out each time a truck is produced a new version of the application, which is not sustainable. So that's why we store this information in the cloud, and through the vehicle identity the app will dynamically retrieve and download the correct information for that particular truck for usage from the first responder. It's not primarily for the download time, of course it's important. The lightweight is really for the device to handle it. because if it's a visualization that is too heavy, the device and the application will not run. So of course it's an opportunity to have it lightweight for the download time, but it's primarily for the application to work properly.
I think that in the future, I mean, this is the start. We've had trucks for many years, but like we talked about before, now we have new technologies coming, and that gives an increased need for this type of information and this type of applications. And in the future, I think that there will be probably more frequent introductions of new technologies. So then I think that we need to use this also going forward when we have other technologies coming in that will come with other challenges and that will come with other uncertainties for the people that need to be in contact with our trucks. We have talked today mostly about, at the accident site, and we have also talked about that the need for this information in particular when it comes to electric truck is because it's a new technology. So of course, if we look further into the future, many years from now, we hope and we believe that rescue services will be just as familiar with electric trucks as they are today with the diesel trucks. So I think also one important aspect of this app and the augmented reality and the 3D version is not only that it's meant to be used at the accident site. We really foresee that this is a training tool for the rescue services, because of course the best would be if they are at an accident site and in a way they don't even need the app because they are so familiar with what they are seeing at the accident site. So we hope and we believe that this is not only to be used at the actual accident site in a quite stressful situation. We hope that rescue services will use this in their own training so that they are prepared, so that they can in fact be very familiar with our products.
That was Anna Wrige and Vincent Barnoux from Volvo Group. The use of augmented reality has the power to revolutionize emergency response, and PTC's advanced AR content development tool, Vuforia, plays a crucial part in this. Time to meet our expert, JJ Lechleiter. Safety and innovation are synonymous with the Volvo brand, and we've just heard about its emergency response guide app, which incorporates Vuforia, PTC's market-leading enterprise AR solutions. So JJ, can you first give our listeners a very high-level overview of what Vuforia is and how the Volvo Group is implementing it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the general manager of the Vuforia business at PTC, and Vuforia within PTC is the market-leading AR suite. And so our customers, like Volvo, they use Vuforia to basically overlay digital information on top of the physical world. So think overlaying information on things like machines or vehicles. And by doing that, we're able to connect the frontline workers with information that they need, ultimately improving their productivity. So in the context of service, our customers use Vuforia to reduce the amount of time that they spend on a service visit or decrease the number of truck rolls, saving time and saving money. Within manufacturing, we see customers performing faster or more accurate inspections. And a common use case is training, where we see customers saving time, saving money in training by effectively providing a digital mentor to aid with their training needs. Now, in Volvo's case, they're using Vuforia to provide their first responders with the information that they need in a fast and intuitive way, keeping them safe and as effective as possible. So now, think about the use case. Augmented reality is used to help a first responder get the correct information every time. It provides them instant access to the right information. Pick up the iPad, point it at the vehicle, get the information that's relevant to the problem that they need to solve. It's quicker than using a PDF or certainly paper documentation. The responder can understand visually what they need to do. They don't need to translate 2D into their physical environment. In other words, look at the screen and try and apply that to the truck in front of them. That's all taken care of by augmented reality. This results in quicker and more accurate responses than when using PDF or paper. And it allows Volvo to meet their requirements at the end of the day in a safer and a more efficient way. And it really solves their key challenge, which was this faster, more efficient use of their rescue cards to keep their first responders safe. The data is extremely important here because they did a great job of solving these safety challenges for the first responders, but how they did it is what's really interesting and really powerful. So Volvo utilized their existing data, their existing CAD data. This is the 3D data that was used to design and manufacture these trucks. Volvo has tons of different variations of the trucks. And so as you can imagine, getting the right information to the first responder for the configuration of the truck that they're standing in front of is critical. Now, Volvo doesn't have to author all of this data for their first responder application. They can pull that data from their product lifecycle management software, which in their case is PTC's Windchill. Now, Windchill software manages all of the different configurations of this data for Volvo. In other words, it handles all of that complexity. And now Volvo, by utilizing the existing data, they were able to launch with support for 1,500 different variations of those trucks and quickly scale to over 4,000 with the potential for much, much more. And that's really powerful because once you have access to the data, you can now repurpose that same existing data, that same pipeline for other use cases and other benefits, service and manufacturing use cases that I mentioned earlier. Now, access to this data, access to these types of tools is really what's creating the advantages for today's connected worker.
Huge thanks to Anna Wrige and Vincent Barnoux for showing us around the Volvo headquarters in Gothenburg. Please rate, review, and subscribe to our bi-weekly Third Angle episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts, and follow PTC on LinkedIn and Twitter for future episodes. This is an 1860 production for PTC. Executive producer is Jackie Cook, recording by Lasse Edfast, sound design and editing by Clarissa Maycock, and music by Rowan Bishop.